This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A.
And a happy Friday, everybody. Dave Rothenberg in for Stephen A. A lot going on. Look, Knicks are very relevant, and we'll get there. John Calipari, and we heard a response from him already. Apparently someone, according to our Ian Begley, reached out on behalf of Calipari and said, hey, Cal is interested in the presidency of the New York Knicks. And Cal came out this morning on Mike and Mike, we'll hear it in a few minutes, and said, this is just not true. This is my dream job. I'm not looking for anything. I want to be at Kentucky. That's for starters. Now it sounds like David Griffin is a real piece that could be involved with the New York Knicks, and it sounds like they're going to sit down and talk with him. And we'll get to the Knicks, and free agency starts tomorrow, and a lot of NBA stuff, and what direction do they go in, and is it going to be Hornacek? Is it going to be Steve Mills? You know, what decision will Dolan make? We'll go there. But I think, you know, the Yankees, there's so many little storylines with the Yankees that I want to kind of start with now. First of all, I get it. It's the last game in Chicago. You can't start a game at 11 o'clock. You can't. You can't start. I mean, 11 o'clock on the East Coast, that's later than any game in California starts. And I understand that they are not scheduled to go up against Chicago and Chicago again, but it's not like that's the North Pole. It's Chicago. Those two teams can find a mutual date. So now the Yankees, I heard they landed in Houston at 7:15 this morning. So how in the world are you supposed to be ready to play a game after what happens last night? I got to tell you, and I've said this, and it continues to creep up and be more and more apparent, guys, the Yankees are in real trouble. They are in real trouble because you look at the injuries with this club right now. I mean, I can't even list them all. That's how many there are. You got Starlin Castro. You've got Austin. Now the kid last night. And how awful is that story? Look, I don't like the Yankees. I root against them. I hope they lose every single game that they play. But Dustin Fowler, great story. First ever start, just called up to the major leagues. Like, this is the kind of stuff. I don't know if you feel like this. These are the kind of things that as like a human being and a sportsman, it breaks you. So his entire life has been spent trying to get into the majors. He gets the call up. And then last night, before he even has an at-bat, he runs into the wall and severely damages the leg, can't walk, carry it off, and just to show you the magnitude of the injury. And I guess it was an open patella tendon issue, right? Just to show you the magnitude, ruptured the patella tendon. They had to rush him to the hospital and do the surgery at 11:30 Central Time last night. I mean, if that doesn't go to show you how severe this thing is, you'd think they'd bring him to the hospital, they'd make him comfortable for the night, first thing in the morning, doctor arrives, they do it. They had to do it at 11:30 last night. My heart breaks for this kid. Really. And no, I'm not a Yankees fan, but I am a human being. My heart breaks for this kid. What a terrible story. And you know, another thing that I wanted to get into from the game last night, yeah, you feel terrible, and the Yankees are all banged up. You know, and I don't know that funny is the right word, but when the Mets are going through injury after injury after injury after injury, every single person, Yankees fan, Mets fan, the Mets training staff is just, they don't know what they're doing. They don't really get it. They're not a good staff. It's always a problem. Well, the Yankees are dealing with the same exact thing, almost to the point where I've never seen anything like it. I mean, every single day, you've got a new guy going on the DL. Matt Holliday. I mean, no, allergies, virus, whatever it is, he's on the DL. Sabathia, DL. Austin, DL. This kid Fowler, DL. Castro, DL. Chapman was on the DL. So the Yankees training staff is not good? No, I think the Yankees training staff is very good. I think that this day and age, guys are constantly and consistently hurt day after day after day. But I had said that you had to win 2 of the next 4, including last night's game, which now puts you in a position where you're the Yankees. You got to go on the road and win 2 out of 3 in Houston. After getting into Houston this morning at 7:30. You can't love these chances. And Lance McCullers on the hill for the Astros later today. 866-ESPN, 866-729-3776. And just from a really kind of creepy scenario. So you know the story of Moonlight Graham? right? Moonlight Graham, who was in the movie Field of Dreams, right? They did that piece on him, and he was the doctor, and he walked across the line. He saved the girl from choking. That was actually a real guy. It's not like it was based on a real guy. That was a real guy. Archibald Moonlight Graham. You want to hear what happened to him? Got hurt before he ever got in that bat in Major League Baseball. Very similar to Dustin Fowler, right? You want to hear something even creepier? Never played again. Want to hear something even creepier? What day did it happen? June 29th, 1905. Dustin Fowler crashes into the wall, ruptures his patella tendon, doesn't get in that bat, but makes his debut in a game. What date did it happen? June 29, 2017. Weird, isn't it? 866-ESPN, 866-729-3776. So the table is set for the Yankees, and now we turn our attention to the Knicks. And the Mets win, and that's great. And they're 6 games under, and they play Philly, and they might win, but they are irrelevant. Until they're not irrelevant, they're irrelevant. But I will tell you one thing. Curtis Granderson is playing well, and I think has increased his value over the last couple of weeks a lot because he's a legitimate player. He's a professional player. He's a left-hand bat. You could use him in a DH spot. Look, you could bat Granderson first. You could bat him 6th. You can bat him 8th. But for a team contending, I think a guy like Granderson is a really nice piece. Look, Matt's pitched well. Lugo pitched well. They're not going anywhere. We know that. We've been there. We've danced that dance. The Knicks. I saw the story, and I spoke to Ian Begley, who broke it last night. And I saw the story, and my initial thought is, because it takes me time, I don't know if you have this, it takes me time to kind of digest the story. And my initial thought was, John Calipari. Well, John Calipari's never won outside of college basketball. And then, it took me a few minutes. I thought, wait a second. I'm not talking about this guy being the coach of the New York Knicks. I'm talking about this guy being the ultimate decision maker for the New York Knicks. And the more I thought about it, the more I kind of fell in love with the idea. The NBA now is about relationships. The NBA now is a bit about, I'm buddies with your agent. I'm buddies with that player. I know that AAU coach. I know that kid. I recruited that kid. I coached that kid. Look at the big-time players, not the LeBrons and the Steph Currys and the Kevin Durants, but young players. John Wall. Does he have a relationship with him? Yeah. He recruited him. He landed him. He played for him. Devin Booker, Anthony Davis, DeMarcus Cousins. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. Julius Randle, Karl Anthony Towns. And those are who he landed, not even who he recruited. I'll go as far as saying this. I don't know that there's a better name as far as having relationships around basketball than John Calipari. So when I heard it, I was like, let me kind of chew on this a little bit. And the more I thought about it, the more excited I was about it. And then, of course, the Knicks came out and said, we have no interest in John Calipari. And if you didn't hear, John Calipari this morning on Mike and Mike said something very similar. He also is not interested in the New York Knicks.
My phone blew up at 4:45 here, and I had to tweet out, which is great about social media. You can cut stuff off when it's not true. But there's no one that, on my behalf, that called the Knicks. And there may be a college coach who has inquired about it. It wasn't me. I called my wife, and I said, was it you? She said, no. And I called my son. He hadn't called me back, so maybe my son had. I'm in Egypt, and it's funny that I get thrown into stuff even when I'm out of the country.
Look, I can't tell you how excited I would be. And it's not only Cal. There's a bunch of guys that if the Knicks were to sit down with and talk to and potentially hire, that I'd be excited about. I don't think anybody more than, well, I can't say anybody more than Cal. Sam Presti would do it for me. There's a bunch of guys that I think would excite me. But I had a caller last night, and he said this, and I was salivating at it. And because it's so exciting, the Knicks would never go in anything near this direction. Calipari, the decision maker. Jay Wright, the head coach. Oh, how great would that be? And for all you saying, Jay Wright's never coached in the NBA, Brad Stevens never coached in the NBA. And just because Cal didn't succeed in his time with the Nets, it's a whole different ballgame. And I think he's an elite basketball mind with even better basketball relationships. 866-ESPN, 866-729-3776. You got this. Yankees stories all over the place on the table. The amount of injuries, the fact that, guys, this thing is falling apart before your eyes, and that awful injury and just how heartbroken you feel for Dustin Fowler. And then you've got the Knicks, which really are the gift that keeps on giving. And you hear names like Isaiah Thomas and you shudder, and you hear names like John Calipari, and the Knicks make it perfectly clear, no, that's not the direction. We won't even sit and talk to him. Why would they not sit and talk with a guy that is as relevant in basketball as anybody in the world right now?
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
A lot of stories surrounding the Knicks here, and they're certainly on the table. And this is going to be a really hot and heavy time for not only free agency. What do the Knicks do? What do the Knicks do as far as, you know, the thing for me also is, are you going to have Mills make the decisions of what they're going to do in free agency, and then in 2 weeks hire new guys? Like, David Griffin's going to wind up as the GM, but Mills is going to decide what they're going to do in free agency? It just, the whole thing reeks of what, the timing is horrendous. Horrendous. What they should have done was gotten to the bottom of this thing right after the season ended and decided whether or not Mills, Hornacek, Jackson would be here, and either clean house or say we're moving forward with these guys or bring new guys in. Because now, I mean, the draft is run by Phil Jackson. He's not here anymore. And I know deep in my heart that Malik Monk is going to average 18 points a game for 13 years. I know it. I heard from John Calipari last night. We played it on the show about how he was saying at the draft, because he was there because he goes every year because he loves his guys and he has like 15 first-round picks every season. He said Malik Monk's going to be a star in this league. And I know he will be. I know it. He's going to be the next Bradley Beal. He'll go out there, he's going to score 18 to 20 points a game, and Frank Ntilikina is going to go for 7 and 4. That's just the way it works for the Knicks. Feels like, doesn't it? 866 ESPN. But the thing that drives me bananas is they let Phil stay employed. He ran the draft. Now you're going to have Mills and Hornacek run free agency, and God knows if they're going to be empowered. So it's like, okay, you run the draft, now you're out. You're going to run free agency. There's a chance you're going to be out. What sense does this make? Well, the answer is none. And Mark Berman of the Post, who has a couple of good articles up there, says that the new leader to be the Knicks GM is former Cavs GM David Griffin. And I'm fine with that. But the issue with a guy like David Griffin is, I think a lot of guys have issues. Like you could find, with a lot of guys, you could say, like him, don't like him, and here's why. David Griffin, success. But here's the thing with Griffin. How much of that success goes to him, and how much of that success is, if you're fortunate enough to land LeBron James, you can't help but win. And let's be honest, is Griffin making moves, or is LeBron telling Griffin, this is what we're going to do? I mean, you sign LeBron. Is that a coup? Any idiot could do that. You draft Kyrie Irving. Is that a coup? No. You traded, Andrew Wiggins for Kevin Love. And then you look at some of the side deals. Korver, fine trade, didn't do much in the finals. J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, I don't think he adds a whole heck of a lot. Tristan Thompson, So I'm not saying I'm opposed to David Griffin. It's hard for me to look at David Griffin and be like, that's a guy that led a team to multiple NBA championship appearances with a title thrown in there, when I really think almost any GM could have success like that. Tyler is on ESPN Radio. What's up, Ty?
Hey, Dave. First, I'd like to say I think you do make an excellent point about Calipari being perfect for that role. The only thing is I would like to say is you said you couldn't think of anyone better. If there was someone better, I think it would be Coach K, just from his connection with USA.
Do you know how old he is?
Yeah, he's 70.
He's 70 years old, and he spent the last 35 years at Duke. Coach K is not leaving there. Look, I'm not saying that there's nobody better. I think Coach K would be great, but come on. Coach K is not going to leave Duke.
No, he's not leaving Duke. I'm not saying that either. That's the only person I could think that would be better, though, just because he is old, but Phil Jackson is like 180, so I don't think that matters to the Knicks, but I think with his connections and how much respect the players have for him, if he did ever leave, that kind of role would be perfect for him.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but that's not going to happen. So I didn't even bring that up because I don't see that. I know Coach K. I used to work down in Raleigh. There's no way he's leaving there. I mean, he's a god there. He's going to finish there. Why would you want that? He had an opportunity to coach the Lakers when they were relevant, and he passed on that. Why would you want a Knicks job as your closing bell to your career?
Yeah, I'm a Duke fan, so I don't want that.
I don't think you have to worry, Tyler. I don't think that's going to happen.
So, hey, have a good day. Thanks.
All right, appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for the call. That's not going to happen. Coach K's not going to come to the Knicks. He's 70 years old. He's been at Duke for 35 years. You think he's going to up and leave there? I mean, he's like a god down there. He's got a huge class coming in to come and run the Knicks. Look, I think that the Knicks has cachet, and I think that it can be turned around. But I don't think you want it as the potential closing salvo to your professional career. You know, Phil Jackson, see, for me, when I now think back on Phil Jackson, you're a Bulls fan, oh, he won all those titles. You're a Lakers fan, he won all those titles. As a Knicks fan, I hear Phil Jackson uttered from now for the next 50 years, and I shudder because he failed here. You think Coach K wants that? End of your career? You've had more success than anybody. You've made a program the benchmark of all of college sports. And you're going to come to the Knicks? No, I don't think so. Kevin in Connecticut. You're on ESPN Radio, Kev.
Hey, how you doing, Dave?
Good. What's going on?
I got how could the Knicks not entertain the thought of picking Calipari? His track record speaks for itself as far as being able to pick talent. Look at the people he put in the NBA over the last 10 years. I mean, it's
for me, Kevin, it's not even about his, because I don't think it takes much to look at Anthony Davis or DeMarcus Cousins or John Wall or Bradley Beal or Devin Booker or Karl Anthony Towns and say, these guys are talented, I want them. What impresses me is that he's capable of landing these guys, and at the next level, we are not in the 1980s where you have a first-round pick, you take that guy, you build around him, you do it again next year. It's about relationships, and I don't think there is anybody who's even in the same stratosphere as a guy like John Calipari.
And you're right. And I don't think he would ever leave Kentucky because that's one of the premier jobs in the country. But one other thing I want to ask you, I'm not familiar with your background. Where are you from? And it seems like you're not a New York fan.
Well, first of all, what are you talking about? I'm from Long Island, and I feel like we're on a date here. So I'm from Long Island. I went to school on Long Island. I lived in New York City for 11 years. And then I moved down to Raleigh for about 5 years, and now I've been back in the tri-state area for 7.
So are you a fan of any of the New York teams?
I love the Giants. That's my number one. Number two is probably the Rangers, followed by the Mets, followed by the Knicks.
All right, sounds good, man. Because I was wondering, man. I'm glad to hear that, man.
Yeah, no, I'm a big. I just don't like. I just don't like the Yankees. That's the one New York team or the Islanders.
That's what you said yesterday. That made
I don't like the Yankees, but that doesn't mean I'm not a New York fan or a New Yorker.
I can understand. I'm a Yankee fan too, so that's what made me
nobody's perfect,
that.
Kevin.
But you've been doing a good job, and Steven's been away, man. I'm glad to talk to you.
All right. Well, I appreciate the phone call. Thanks for it. Thanks for kind of that quick dating
Have a nice
moment. Brought me back. I appreciate it. Right? Isn't that like a blind date? So tell me about you. All right. From Long Island, grew up there, went to high school and college on the island, moved into New York City, spent 11 years in the city, met my wife, moved out to Queens for a couple of years, and then we moved down to the Raleigh area for 5. We have 2 children and a dog. Black Lab. Beautiful dog. 866-ESPN, 866-729-3776. Is there anything else you want to know, or do you think I've fulfilled that you feel comfortable in knowing a little bit about me? All right, Yankees on the table. That injury, just awful from Dustin Fowler. Horrible yesterday. Your heart breaks for a kid like that. Knicks are always relevant, aren't they? All right, more Knicks stories are rolling through. We'll report on those. Sounds like they have David Griffin as the leader for their GM, but that's today. Things can change quickly.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Knicks news continues to roll in. Sounds like David Griffin is the guy that they have interest in. Mark Berman of the Post also reporting Carmelo Anthony is not off the trade block. And also an interesting thing that we'll get into in a couple minutes about how Melo was maybe almost sabotaging the job of one Phil Jackson. We'll get into that in a couple minutes. We bring in, of all the people I know in radio and TV and media and everything, nobody likes anybody more than Don LaGreca. Well-respected, funny guy, wonderful guy, and everybody out there has a chance to meet Don LaGreca later today at Martell's Tiki Bar. We are joined by the great Don LaGreca. Don, how are you?
Good, Dave. How are you?
I am well. Now, you're at the Beach Bash. You're there very early. You're not usually in studio 90 minutes before things get rolling.
Well, they asked us to be here for 1 o'clock, and I'm glad I came because if you come down to Point Pleasant, I mean, it's a gorgeous day. It's probably the best day we've had in the years we're doing this, and we've got a VIP section with all kinds of food and drink, and then there's the upper level where the stage is going to be, where the show's going to start at 3 o'clock. Al Leiter's going to be pitching to me at 4 because I've guaranteed that I can put a ball and play against Al Leiter playing wiffle ball, and I know you got my back on that one.
No,
there's some wind on the beach, and I'm not really sure that he might be breaking off like we'll have to see.
No, Don, in fact, I was just talking to John Winthrop, the producer of this show, and I said, I don't love your chances. Is there something at stake here? Like, if you don't hit him, do you have to, run naked around Martell's?
No, there's no need for that because I put myself out there. I said I can hit a former major league pitcher, and how is it going to look for Al Leiter if I'm right? So reputations are on the line, so nobody's got to run naked. Nobody's got to do 100 push-ups or do something silly, have their backs or anything. Just reputation online. And I did hit David Cohn about 5 years ago in a similar situation. And I would
unload
say,
on him?
You're a Met guy, David Cohn's better than Al Leiter.
Yes. Yes, I agree that. So when you step into the box against Leiter, do you have nerves? Does the heart palpitate? Or do you just go in like you're a 20-year veteran?
That's it, because I've known him. I'm a Met fan. I know he's got no tricks up his sleeve. We both watched him. We know. The count's going to go full. He always worked the count. It's a lefty-righty situation. You might make the case that if this was baseball, you'd actually have me pinch hit against Al.
I think that absolutely would be the case. All right, so give us the particulars.
It doesn't sound like you got a lot of confidence in me, but that's fine. I'll prove everybody wrong.
Well, look. I mean, he's a man with a major league pedigree, Don. You're a guy that's one of the best sports talk show hosts in the world, but your pedigree. Although I did see you on the softball diamond, and you were excellent last year during your big event. But for everyone listening, and I don't know that they could not know what's going on, but let everybody know they can come down, they can meet you, Michael, Peter as well today. It's a big festival. It's fun. It's going to go on well past the show. Give everyone the information about the event at Martell's.
It's right down. Martell's Tiki Bar, right on the boardwalk, Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey, exit 98 on the Parkway. Just swing by, 21 or older. Again, we got food, we got drink. The show's going to start at 3 o'clock. We got Al Leiter's going to be here. Willie Colon is going to be here. We've got a possibility of some other special guests. I'm going to perform a song. Michael's going to perform a song. Peter, as soon as he gets here, is going to start DJing up until 3 o'clock. So we're going to get ready for the 4th of July weekend, man. It's going to be fun. The weather's gorgeous. People, this is the best. We've done this for years, but this by far so far looks like it's going to be the biggest, the best one yet. So you got the day off, swing by, spend a few hours with us. We're looking forward to it.
Donnie, it's going to be great. Have a wonderful time. And you're a man of the people. Like, you're going to be taking photos with everybody and signing autographs and kissing babies, right? I mean, this is the red letter day for you.
Whatever anybody needs, man. Unlike a lot of other people in our situation, we're out there. We like to talk to people. We like to hang with people. We exist because of these people, so we want to try to give back a little bit. And they love you. They're asking about you already. So why don't you come down after the show?
Because that's a far trip for me at 3 o'clock. It would take me hours to get there.
Sorry. So we're friends with limits is what you're saying.
I'm a friend all the way through, but if I were to leave my home or the studio at 3 o'clock to get down to you guys, I'd probably get there at about 5:30 or 6.
What's the matter? That's an hour and a half to hang with us during the show, and we're going to be hanging after. So I'll see you at 5:30, right?
Great. Yeah, you got it, Don. Tell everybody I say hi. Have a terrific show, and we look forward to it, buddy.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
You got it. That, of course, Don LaGreca is going to be with the Michael Kay Show down in Point Pleasant. That gets rolling at 3 o'clock. But as you hear right now, it's filling up in Martell's Tiki Bar. You can go and meet Don, and he really is a great guy. And, of course, that show will be heard in its entirety on XM Channel 205. So Michael, Don, and Peter, they'll all be there with all sorts of special giveaways from the station. The ESPN street team will be there. It's going to be an outstanding afternoon. And it is nice weather, which is always a benefit. 866-ESPN, 866-729-3776. Yankees, forget about the injuries. Forget about this Fowler injury, which is really just graphic. And a buddy of mine sent me a text. He's a hand surgeon, but he is a doctor. I said, what does this mean, open? Because they keep saying it's an open patella tendon rupture. And he said he's never heard of that before, but his belief is that would mean that it came through the skin. And that's why they had to do the surgery immediately last night. He said it came through the skin. He said it's a tear without a laceration. I don't even know what this means. That was transected or lacerated patella tendon. And he said it came through the skin. So that's awful news for this kid, who odds are, you hope he plays again. Now, look, Victor Cruz in the NFL, same injury, came back, was never the same. But I think it's different, right? You don't need to cut and run in Major League Baseball the same way you need to in the NFL. Now, someone pointed this out, and they're right, and I just want to correct myself about Moonlight Graham. Moonlight Graham did not get hurt. Moonlight Graham came in as a defensive replacement in the 8th inning and then just did not bat in the 9th. And that was it. Never played in another Major League game again. And what was it? I think it was Kinsella, right, that wrote Field of Dreams. And he noticed in the Baseball Encyclopedia that there was a guy who had played in a game but never got an official at-bat in a game. And you would hope that that's not the case of Fowler. But with that injury last night, it certainly does make you reminisce a little bit. John in Jersey, you're on ESPN Radio, John.
Hey, what's going on, Dave? Good afternoon.
Appreciate the phone call, John. What's up?
Dave, listen, David Griffin, as far as the Knicks general manager's position, the guy just doesn't move me at all, Dave. You got to look thoroughly at the resume. The guy gave away first-round draft picks, second-round draft picks for mediocre role players. But
don't you think when you have LeBron James and you're trying to cater to LeBron James, it's a far different job than of course Dave, it is. You have to try and win immediately with LeBron. There's no building process there.
Dave, this team needs to finally build it the right way from the ground up through the NBA draft, and that's why I'm going with Sam Presti. Let me just remind you of Presti's draft record.
I know Presti's draft record. I also know that he's signed to a deal with Oklahoma City. Are you willing to trade for Presti?
I'm willing to give a pair of second-round picks and cash considerations. That's what I'm looking to do.
And when they laugh at your second-round, who wants second-round picks, John? John, who wants second-round picks?
Dave, they're cash-strapped in Oklahoma City. Buy him for a salary. Offer them money and offer them picks. Not first-round picks, second-round picks, because they need the money in OKC. That's why they let Harden go. That's why they let Durant go. They don't want to pay the luxury tax.
I don't think it's about second-round picks. They need the money, but they're not going to do it for guys that aren't going to be on their roster. Who wants to? John, if you offer me 2 second-round picks for the Knicks right now, yeah, I'll take it. It does nothing for me. I'm not giving up a guy who is one of the preeminent, general managers in the entire NBA for 2 second-round picks. Here's what I need. If I'm Oklahoma City, and you tell me if you're willing to do this, I want a first-round pick that is protected from 8 to 1. So if you get 8, 7, 6, all the way to 1, you keep it. But the next time you have 9 or higher, that comes to me. Would you do that?
I think the monetary compensation is more than fair, and I think that's more important to OKC at this point. The Knicks cannot afford to give away first-round draft picks, Dave. They did
how
it in the past.
How much money are you going?
I want a whole new day now. I don't want any veterans. I don't want any
John, we're going to do this dance where I just talk over you, and you talk over me, and I talk over you, and you talk over me. How much money are you going to offer for Sam Presti? $40 million?
I'm not going to give him $40 million, Dave, but if I'm going to give money away, I'm certainly not going to buy Carmelo Anthony out. I'm going to invest in the general manager, the guy that's the architect of the team. This guy has a proven record of greatness in the draft, Dave. That's exactly what the Knicks need, as well as free agency, as well as handling the cap, as well as making shrewd trades. He'll get the Knicks on the right road. David Griffin has done nothing. Nothing. Quick fix, overpriced, role players. I don't want that. I don't need that.
I'm all on board with Presti, John, and thanks for the phone call. All on board with Presti. My issue with Presti is he's not going to be given away for nothing. And if you think that $3 million or $5 million, which, yeah, in the real world is a ton of money, it's a drop in the bucket as far as the NBA is concerned. Two second round picks and $10 million. Would I do it if I'm the Knicks, if I'm James Dolan? Yesterday. But I don't know that gets it done. You might have to offer a little bit more. This is a great basketball mind. The funny thing about John is he always calls and says, I don't like this, I don't like that, I don't want this, I wouldn't go that. What are you looking for the Knicks to do outside of Sam Presti? You don't want Calipari. You don't want David Griffin. I mean, guys, you can't have one person on your wish list and everybody else is unacceptable. You've got to widen it a little bit. Now, look, I don't want Isaiah Thomas. I think that's fair. But there's more than just one narrow person. I'd love R.C. Buford as well. I'd love Jerry West. I'd love John Calipari. There are a lot of guys. I think you have to be realistic. And I don't think David Griffin's awful. I think for everything negative you say about David Griffin, you could say the opposite as well. Guy what has he done there? He took a team to the NBA Finals 3 straight times as GM. Why they moved on from him? I mean, Dan Gilbert is it's a little bit ridiculous, isn't it?
You're listening to Love Advice with Leanne. Caller, you're on the air.
Hi, Leanne. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Why, in your professional opinion, do you never take my calls off the air?
Is this Carl?
Yep, it's Carl. I mean, we had a few dates. Everything was great. I thought,
Well, when you switch to Geico, you could save a lot of money on car insurance.
Okay, awesome.
You should call them.
I will.
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Guess what?
You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
So I know there's a ton of you. Like, Melo is very polarizing. Either Melo can do no wrong and he's perfect, or Melo is a guy that is the reason that the Knicks have been bad. And all I'm doing right now is playing the role of messenger. I am going to read you pieces of a story from Mark Berman of the New York Post. And then you can determine how you feel about this. I wouldn't even comment on it right now. I will read it. I will react off it later. But even before I say anything, you call me 866-ESPN. 866-729-3776. Report. Phil Jackson thought Carmelo Anthony was trying to sabotage him. In March, Kristaps Porzingis offered a strong endorsement of the triangle. That put him between the Knicks' then-president Phil Jackson and forward Carmelo Anthony, Mark Berman of the Post reports. According to an NBA source, Anthony was furious to read of Porzingis' positive sentiments on an offense that he disdains. Melo really chewed him out, lit into him, the source said. Actually, some Knicks officials believe Anthony's influence on Porzingis has been detrimental and a key reason why Jackson became adamant about removing him from the roster any way that he could. An NBA source said, and I quote, Phil thought Melo was trying to sabotage him. So I am not reacting. You're not hearing my take. I just read you a story that, there are sources involved, and you never know if it's true, but it certainly sounds like it could be. You tell me. 866-ESPN, 866-729-3776. Spike in Jersey. You're on ESPN Radio, Spike.
Good to talk to you again. I want to go over something we talked about yesterday. And John from Freehold knows his stuff inside out. One caveat to what he said, and I'll comment on that story, there's a limit in the hard cap what you can give for cash. It's like $3.5 million.
So you think that Oklahoma City is going to trade their GM, who's a genius, for $3.5 million?
Yeah, you don't even get a rotation player for that today. But it's well thought out. He knows his stuff. I know he wants
all right, Spike, I got you. You don't have to go to bad. John's a good caller.
Okay. All right. Now, we talked yesterday a little bit about this. The main focus is you got to get Melo out of here so you free cap space. Look at what Houston has just done, Dave. This team is an offense. Forget Chris Paul. Don't forget him. He's a great distributor of the ball with Harden. They have two of the top 10 passes in the last 20 years in the game. I'm sure you'd agree on that. But sans Chris Paul, you don't have another defender on this team. You got Ariza. You know who we have on this team.
They want to try and outscore you.
That's right. They're going to try and outscore you. Now, who's the most prolific per-minute scorer the Knicks have? Carmelo Anthony. He could. You remember Vinnie Johnson, one of the guys from Brooklyn who came off the bench and basically won that series for them at the end?
I don't remember him on Brooklyn. I remember him on Detroit.
No. He came from. He's a Brooklyn kid.
Oh, okay.
Went to high school, but I forget what high school. But the bottom line is, why don't you make a deal with Houston? I was driving Carmelo to the airport. I might walk with him to Houston now. If Houston's going to try and outscore you, aren't you better off giving them, making a deal, taking 1 of the 2 years left, free up the salary cap? Now you're really
I think Houston's interested.
Just,
I think he's interested, but here's the negative on that.
What?
Who's the head coach of Houston?
Yeah, there's always something. There's always someone that burns you down.
That's the deal, Spike, right now. And thanks for the call, buddy.
Yeah.
There are 2 teams that are seemingly in play for Carmelo Anthony. And one of those is Houston, but they have the detriments because you're not going to you can't buy him out. And here's why. Because Phil Jackson wanted to buy him out. So if you go and you buy him out, and you're the Knicks, and you sit down, you figure out a number, and it works for both of you, and you move on from him, then why is Phil Jackson not here anymore? That, to me, is the biggest question. So if you buy him out, it feels like you're going against everything that Phil exactly wanted to do, but now you're making these decisions of exactly what he wanted to do. How do you do that? That doesn't make any sense, which would be Knicks-like. But for me, I'll tell Melo, no, you're not getting bought out. You can accept a trade anywhere you want to go. We are not buying you out. Not happening.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
I'm Stephen A.
There's an article from Mark Berman of the Post, which we just went through about how, I mean, really the gist of it is that Phil Jackson and people around Phil Jackson think that Carmelo Anthony was trying to sabotage him and get in the way of his relationship with Kristaps Porzingis. I don't even, because I have very strong feelings about this, and we will get there, but I just want to revisit the article quickly, take a couple calls, and then I will let you know my thoughts on this. Again, it's from Berman of the Post. Says the article is Phil Jackson thought Melo was trying to sabotage him. According to an NBA source, Anthony was furious when Porzingis had positive comments on the triangle, an offense that Carmelo Anthony can't stand. Melo chewed him out. This is a quote. The source said, Melo chewed him out and lit into him. Phil thought Carmelo Anthony was trying to sabotage him. Some Knicks officials believe, this is not like one Knicks official, some Knicks officials believe Anthony's influence on Porzingis has been detrimental and a key reason why Jackson became adamant about removing him from the roster in any way he could. 866-ESPN, 866-729-3776. Edison in Queens is on ESPN Radio.
Yes, hello.
Hello, Edison.
Yeah, that's my first time caller. First time got through. Thank
Great.
you.
Well, you're on the air, and the floor is yours.
You know, first thing, I think that Melo is getting a very bad rap. If you look and see of all the successful players, they had 2 or 3 other guys around them to support them. Since Melo came to the Knicks, who has he gotten? No one. He's always had to go there and try to score 30 to 40 points per night.
Well, let me just ask you this, Edison. I'm not asking for Carmelo Anthony to lead the Knicks to the NBA Finals, but Carmelo Anthony can't have the Knicks as a 7 seed in the Eastern Conference right now?
But who he has? Listen, the Knicks won 54 points, 54 games with Jason Kidd. How they did it? Their old man, age, took the toll on those guys. Those guys used experience to win those games.
Well, who did the Milwaukee Bucks have on their Edison? Who do the Bucks have on their roster outside of Antetokounmpo, who you look at and say big time player?
Pardon me?
Who do the Bucks have on their roster outside of the Greek Freak that you look at and you say that's a big time player?
Boston has the young players that are very athletic, and also the young kids.
You know what the answer would be, Edison? And thanks for the phone call. They really don't have a lot. And in fact, one of the guys that's supposed to be this side player for Antetokounmpo, Jabari Parker, is hurt and missed the year again with a torn ACL. Look, to sit here and tell me that Carmelo Anthony's not going to the NBA Finals, I'm not having that argument. He shouldn't be able to with this team. But to tell me that the Knicks couldn't be a team that competes for a playoff spot? Really? I mean, Courtney Lee is a professional player, and Derrick Rose is a former MVP. Joakim Noah? Hernan Gomez? First team All-Rookie, right? Porzingis? Melo? This is a team that can't compete for a playoff spot? John, Long Island. You're on ESPN Radio, John.
Hey, Dave. How you doing?
Good. What's up?
So the statements you made on the Knicks, it's not only believable, it actually makes sense. But I just want to be off the depressing Knicks for a second.
Okay.
Joe Lacob, the owner of the Golden State Warriors, said he's concerned about the tax dollars he's going to have to spend. Mm-hmm. What do you think the Warriors are going to do this offseason and the next few offseasons, specifically with the Hampton Five? Like, so this offseason, they're going to have KD, Steph, and Andre as free agents. Clay's going to be next season, and Draymond's going to be in 2 seasons.
I think they're going to keep their guys. I think they're going to keep the big. I don't even know about Iguodala. I think that they could let him walk, but I think that they'll keep the big four, and I think that they'll do what they've done, and that is these guys are very interchangeable. And you know what, John? Thanks for the call. It's a good call. They're the opposite of the Knicks. There was a report recently that said the Knicks are like a last resort team for players to go to. The Warriors are a first resort team. If you're David West and you've had a long storied career, really good player, where do you want to finish your career? You want to go there because you're going to win. You know, so guys will go 1 year, probably lesser money, just to chase that championship. So as long as you keep those four in place, I think that you can just rotate the other, periphery or guys on the outside, periphery players, and I think you're fine. I don't think there's an issue at all. Let's go to Nathan in Jersey. Nathan, you're on ESPN Radio.
What's up, Dave? How you doing?
Good. What's going on?
I got a couple things. First, on the Yankees and the NBA free agency, but first, man, what a terrible injury to Justin Fowler. I've been watching him. I've been watching him throughout his career in Trent Thunder. So he used to play for Trent Thunder, and he's a good player. And hopefully he comes back stronger next year because the Yankees can use him next year with a couple contracts coming out of the book. So maybe get more younger. So and then the Yankees, in my opinion, they're in trouble now with all the injuries. So I mean,
I think they're in big trouble. I think Boston's better. B, I think the Yankees are so banged up, and C, I don't think their pitching staff is all that good.
Yeah, and then the other thing for NBA free agency, I can't wait till tonight where everything begins at midnight. I'll be up the whole night looking at my Twitter account till actually I won't sleep because anything can happen at 12 or 1 a.m. because I think some of the deals like Drew Holiday is expected to re-sign with the Pelicans at 12 and 1, and they said so. I think that's going to happen, but with the Knicks,
so Nathan, you're a Knicks fan, right?
Yeah,
and you are going to pull an all-nighter, knowing that the Knicks are probably going to do very little of anything relevant, and you're going to pull an all-nighter just to see what everybody else does.
Yeah,
you're a good NBA fan. Adam Silver says thank you.
Because for the Knicks, so like they just released what's his name, Nador, whatever his name is.
Endor, yeah.
Yeah, so I think this is what's the beginning. Like maybe I'm interested. I want to see them get David Griffin. I think he's a good GM. So if they can get David Griffin in fold, then maybe good things can happen there. So
maybe we will see. It's funny. People are very very polarized. And thanks for the call, Nathan, on David Griffin. Right, half the people, he's very good, smart guy. Half the people, I don't want any part of him. He was a lackey to LeBron James. And look, you can't argue with the fact, but it's hard to tell. You know, how much of it is LeBron and what LeBron is forcing, and how much is it that Griffin is a good, smart basketball mind? I would be on board with that. That wouldn't be something that the Knicks would do, and I would freak out. I would be okay with that. There's a bunch of guys that I would be okay with. I want to get into this Carmelo story. I kind of didn't want to react on it because I wanted you guys to be able to first. If this is true, How can you have any respect for Carmelo Anthony? How can you root for Carmelo Anthony? If this is true, and I'm not saying that it is, but I'm just looking at the story, that you have a young star player on your hands. And whether you think, he's going to be the best or 10th best or whatever he's going to be, he's a young, big-time, one of the better young players in this league. And team leaders, guys, would typically take him and work with him and help him. And this story is telling us that Carmelo Anthony did just the opposite, that he pulled him aside, and as the quote says, Melo really chewed him out, lit into him. If this is the case, and this is true, then all this positivity around Carmelo Anthony that anybody has is ridiculous. Because you've heard for years, I don't think he has the work ethic as other big-time players. I don't think he has the care of other big-time players. If this is true, this is disgusting. That a player would potentially, A, sabotage, B, get into the ear of a young, big-time player and turn him against ownership here? You wonder why people are turned off by Carmelo Anthony? And I'm not saying everybody is. But you wonder why there are people that are turned off by him? Read this story. Make your own summation here. Chris in Jersey City, you're on ESPN Radio, Chris.
Hey, Dave, how you doing?
Good.
I read this story the other day, and, the first thing that I thought was Carmelo Anthony has to go. I mean, buy him out, do whatever you have to do, but the only hope for this Knicks team going forward, whether they hire David Griffin, who God knows what he can do, or whatever, is to go young. And if you have a guy who's, a great player in his own mind, then when he doesn't get his way, poisons the team, there's no hope for this team in the near future or distant future.
Not with a guy like Carmelo Anthony. Reading this kind of story really makes you uncomfortable and rubs you the wrong way, doesn't it? I mean, you can't have a guy who is supposed to be the best player on this team. And look, and thanks for the call, Chris. I think all big-time players have some of that in them. And Magic Johnson got a coach fired early on in his career. But you're trying to win with Porzingis. You're now going to chastise him for actually liking the offense that you're running? How about you fall into place once? How about you act like a team leader once? How about you put your arm around the kid and say, all right, you and I, we got this. What a 1-2 punch we're going to be. Instead of all about, it's got to be my way. I think Phil failed miserably here. But I don't think Carmelo Anthony did him any favors either.
You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Our Ian Begley is reporting, and this is fresh off Twitter, Knicks open up about $500,000 in cap space by waiving Maurice Endor. So I don't think that's much of a loss. In fact, Endor, I think, hit that winning shot in the last game of the season against Philadelphia to make the Knicks drop to that 8th spot instead of selecting 7, but it probably wouldn't have mattered because they probably would have taken Neely Kina. I wonder if the Knicks would have had, the 4th pick if they would have taken him. I wonder just how well he fit into the triangle that, of course, they no longer will run, but I wonder how hot and heavy they were on this guy. If the Knicks had the 2 pick, would it have been all right, we're considering between Ball and Neely Kina, or did they actually recognize that Neely Kina is not a top 5 selection in any draft? 866-ESPN, 866-729-3776. We got into this earlier. I just want to kind of revisit it. That injury to Dustin Fowler. When you think about awful injuries in sports, that has to be one of them, right? I mean, look, Victor Cruz had that one. Theismann, I think Theismann is the one that you think of because it was so public and it was a Monday night game and he never played after that. And it was a compound fracture of the leg. Oh, it was awful. And the Giants lost that game, if you remember. My dad always said, because we were watching that game, and it was a flea flicker, and Taylor got to Theismann, and he was so upset after it. And my dad said, and look, no one was happy that the injury occurred, but my dad said, and he said it to me for years after, the Giants lost that game because they were afraid to hit. That's why they lost the game. They were afraid to hit because they just wrecked the guy's career, and they were so shaken by it, and that's why they lost. You remember who came in that game? You remember the quarterback that came in and beat the Giants that night? Jay Schrader. I think number 10 out of UCLA. Came in, beat the Giants, and just a really rough loss. But you start to think about the big Napoleon McCallum. Remember the running back, went to Navy, played in the NFL. I remember, I also think it was a Monday night. His leg just, it was awful, like snapped in 3, and he was under a pile, and nobody could move off him. They had to kind of slide him out from underneath. I'm trying to think of other injuries that were just, Jason Kendall. Remember Jason Kendall? Right? The catcher, first baseman for the Pirates, was running down to first base, stepped on first awkwardly, dislocated his ankle that it came protruding through the skin, went into shock on the side. You know, look, there are like I think the safety's name was Chucky Mullins with Ole Miss, where he was paralyzed after the hit and then died a couple of years later. But that wasn't as big. Like, I'm talking about major stages, and Theismann was a major stage. You could tweet me if there's any I'm missing. I'm sure there are at Rothenberg ESPN. But those are the ones, like the Theismann one I remember. Tony Conigliaro, now that was before my time, but he was hit in the face, was awful. Giancarlo Stanton, remember that one? When Stanton, I think it was Mike Fiers, who was pitching for the Brewers, hit Stanton in the face. He wound up missing the last couple of months of the season. Broke everything. Those are the ones that I remember. Oh, yeah, Rick DiPietro is texting me right now. That's a good one. The guard from Louisville in the tournament, I think his name, was it Kevin Ware? And he went up to block a shot, and he came down, and his leg snapped. And it was so severe, guys started throwing up on the court. But that's what last night reminded me of. Oh, just a horrible injury. Horrible injury. Anthony in Jersey. Anthony, you're on ESPN Radio.
Hey, Dave. How you doing?
Good. What's up?
I want to start off by saying I don't think Phil Jackson was a good GM, so let me preface that. But I also think some of the criticism is a little unfair. I mean, you're asking Phil Jackson to be Phil Jackson, and in the same sense, not allowing him to be Phil Jackson. People forget that the Bulls, and I'm a Bulls fan, and the Lakers, they didn't win until Phil got there. And I understand the game is changing, and you can't run the triangle exactly the same, but I never understood why these Knicks players wouldn't buy into it and so that against, using a system that won. The guy has won 11 rings with it, and now with this story coming out, I kind of makes sense why they were so adamant and giving him such a hard time. And if this is true, and you're going to change the culture, then you got to change the culture all the way by getting rid of Melo. I agree with your previous caller by saying you can't have your best player on the team poison your future. And if that
I
means
agree.
You got to buy
I've said it for weeks and weeks and months. Look, I was of the ilk, and thanks for the call, I would have never re-signed Carmelo Anthony. And the last thing I would have done was who gives a no trade clause to a guy like, look, you want to stay here? We're paying you $100 million. You can figure out a way to waive your no trade clause. Oh, tweets are pouring in. I remember this one. Tim Krumrie, Bengals Super Bowl against the Niners, fractured his leg. I think it was a compound fracture early in the game. And he was so fanatical about wanting to be involved, he wouldn't leave the stadium. And he was watching the game from the stadium, and finally the doctor said, we've got to get you to the hospital. Sean Livingston comes in from Twitter. Paul George, terrible injury. Willis McGahee, remember that? And McGahee is a good one also because it happened in the national championship game where everyone was focused on it. Let's see what else we got. Paul George, Tim Krumrie, Marcus Lattimore, right? Running back at South Carolina. Lattimore. Paul George. Yeah, those are the ones. I get Piazza getting beamed in the head by Clemens, but that wasn't it was a scary situation, but it wasn't a major injury, so I'm not going to include that one in the list. But there are some that you remember watching that you never forget, right? Paul George is what everyone is tweeting me right now. And this is another interesting one. Daniel Robbins tweets in Alan Ray. A lot of people say, I don't remember that. It was Big East tournament, Madison Square Garden. It actually freaked me out. I was watching on TV. I remember I was watching with my wife on TV, and I don't remember who Villanova was playing, but Alan Ray was a guard, and he got poked in the eye. And you could probably look it up if you're gruesome enough that you'd like to. His eye didn't fall out of his head, but it was like pushed out of the socket to the point that his eye was falling out of his head. Oh, just awful. I guess we've found a chord that DiPietro likes because Rick DiPietro, of course, from Han Humpty and Canny, is texting me over and over. Clint Malarchuk, that was an awful. Remember that? With the Sabres, the goalie, the skate, cut him across the neck. And I guess they said he would have died if a doctor hadn't rushed out to his attention very, very quickly. Paul George is the one. Bo Jackson. But Bo Jackson, see, the thing with Bo Jackson is you're watching the game. I think it was against the Bengals in the postseason, and it happened, and you didn't realize what it was at all. Like, Bo got up, he walked off, and that was it. You know what's another one that I remember? I think the pitcher's name was Bryce Flory, and he pitched for the Red Sox. And I think, was it Ryan Thompson that used to be with the Mets, and then he was at the Yankees, and he was not even a mediocre player. He wasn't a very good player. And he crushed this ball right up the middle and hit Bryce Flory in the face, and I think it took years of, facial reconstruction to get that guy back to anywhere near a semblance of normalcy.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Peter Rosenberg is out in Point Pleasant, New Jersey. Is he ready or he's not ready? He's not ready yet. Well, Peter Rosenberg is out in Point Pleasant, New Jersey, and when he is ready, we're going to go to him. He's going to tell us about a great day on 98.7 ESPN in New York. Let's go to Nick, Long Island. Nick, you're on ESPN Radio.
How's it going, Dave?
Good. What's going on, Nick?
I just want to bring up a point about you said earlier how Malik Monk would be like an 18 to 20 point per game scorer, and Ntilikina could be like a 7-3 guy.
No. I was just using that as an example because that's the Knicks' misfortune. I don't necessarily believe that on each way. Although I do like Malik Monk a lot, and I would have gone in that direction.
But what I want to say is that I'm a strong believer in giving guys time and developing them. You know, you look at Devin Booker, who's a guy who played under Calipari. He never started one game for Kentucky, but now he is the future for the Phoenix Suns. You know, I think if the developmental team puts the time in and works on Ntilikina, then he could turn into something.
Oh, Nick, I don't look. I'm not anti-Ntilikina. I think that there's a very good chance that this guy can be a legitimate NBA point guard. My point is, I would have preferred Dennis Smith, and I would have preferred Malik Monk over him. Not once did you hear me say I'm disappointed in Ntilikina. There are just other guys I would have preferred at that spot. It's not like, look, Luke Kennard, I don't think he's quick enough for the NBA game. I wouldn't have liked that. But Ntilikina, I don't know about him, and I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, certainly.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah, absolutely I am. You've never heard me say anything negative about this kid. Thanks for the call, Nick. I think he's got upside. And you know what the thing is, which I kind of find comical? I've never seen him play. I don't know anything about it. All I know about Frank Ntilikina is what Fran Fraschilla says, or what guys who have watched him play over in France say. I can't sit here and give you a scouting report. I know Malik Monk. I've watched Malik Monk. I know Dennis Smith. I've watched Dennis Smith. Lonzo Ball, Markelle Fultz, Jason Tatum. I probably watched Jason Tatum play 20 games this year. So you've never heard me say anything negative, nothing negative about Ntilikina. The only thing that I will say is there are guys that I liked, and I just don't know about him. Look, we had the same reaction when they drafted Porzingis 2 years ago. It's the worst pick you've ever seen. There's a kid crying in the audience because they can't believe they took Porzingis. And right now it looks like, look, Towns is still the star of that draft, but, KP would probably go too. He's a wonderful player, and he's got big upside, and he will get better. But let's be honest about it. Why would you have a guy that is on the outs in Phil Jackson make that selection? That's, to me, is the issue. Look, Ntilikina might turn out to be a really nice NBA player. But why would you leave it in the hands of a guy in Phil Jackson who's not even here now? All right, let's go out to Point Pleasant, New Jersey, and bring in one of the members of the Michael Kay Show, who is apparently doing double duty right now, and that is Peter Rosenberg. Good afternoon, Peter Rosenberg.
Hello, Dave. I've under 2 minutes. I only have as long as this DJ Khaled Rihanna song plays because, yes, I am DJing at the pre-Beach Bash at Martell's Tiki Bar down in Point Pleasant, and you are missed. We want to see your swim shirt. We wish you were here.
Oh, I wore my swim shirt the other day when we went swimming at a friend's pool, and it was the big hit of the party.
I'm sure it was tremendous.
It was tremendous. So Exit 98, let people know it's already rocking and rolling. You're going to do a full show. Are you going to hang out after the event for a little while after 7 o'clock tonight as well so people can get to know you a little bit?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I'm going to hang out for a little while, probably at least till 7:30, 8 o'clock, hang out, meet the people, have a beverage. And it's a fantastic time. People are in a great mood. The weather is gorgeous. Right now we're playing music, having some drinks, and then we'll start the show soon. Don LaGreca is going to attempt to hit an Al Leiter pitch. It's going to be unreal.
I'll let you go in a second. I know you got to run. I talked to Don earlier, and he said, you think I'll hit Leiter, right? And I said, no, I don't think you'll hit Leiter. And he was disappointed in me. Where do you fall on this?
I think he will foul something off. I do not think he will put something in play. Not in fair play. I don't.
Yeah.
I love Don, but I'm sorry. I think Al Leiter still has stuff. The man's only 51 years old. This is a World Series winner, for God's sake.
Yeah, he certainly is. And his arm's not going to get tired because they pushed him out to 150 pitches back in his days with the New York Mets. Peter,
exactly.
I know you got to run. I'll talk to you soon. Tell everybody I say hi and have a great time this afternoon.
All right, buddy. Happy 4th. Later, guys.
Same to you. That, of course, Peter Rosenberg, who apparently he's DJing, he's hosting, he's talking to me. Here's the deal. It's already started. You'd say the show gets started at 3, but the event is already started. Go down to Point Pleasant, exit 98 off the Parkway, Martell's Tiki Bar. There's a VIP area. There's huge amounts of room. Go, hang out, meet Michael, Don, Peter, and then you get autographs, pictures. You'll get free stuff. The street team will be there. Really a wonderful day, and it's gorgeous weather in the New York area. And for those of you listening on XM, you say, I can't go. I'm in Hawaii. You can listen to the entire show on XM 205. 866-ESPN, 866-729-3776. Damien is on ESPN Radio. What's up, Damien?
Hey, what's going on? I just think something needs to be said about a conversation needs to be started about all these players that come into the league that are supposed to be so good, like Porzingis or Cat or DeMarcus Cousins. Or the list goes on of all these players that will be so good, supposed to be so good, so talented. They come into the league, they don't win anything. It's like back in the day, if you get a
children. I mean, what do you expect? You expected Kristaps Porzingis to come in and win a championship in his first or second year?
I don't expect him to win a championship, but I expect wins. I expect more wins. Like if Shaq came into the league, David Robinson came into the league, Elijah Wan, all these people produce more wins.
Hang on a second. Damien, you just named 3 of the greatest players in the history of the game.
I understand that.
All right, so can we at least let these guys – and Shaquille O'Neal spent how many years at college?
What, 2?
2 or 3. And Akeem spent how many years at college? I believe 3. And David Robinson spent how many years at college? I believe 4. So these are all guys that are coming out at 18, 19 years old. There's a big difference. And it kind of makes sense, Damien. They're going to the worst teams in the NBA, aren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, back in the day, these players are going to the worst team. And like now you're saying, like, most of these people, they try to say that they're untradeable. Porzingis gets on the trading block and everybody gets all up in arms. Well, it's like, okay, well, what is he actually doing? Are they actually
so
winning?
Let me just see if I'm following your point here. Let me see if I'm following your point. Because these guys are not going to the postseason, at least in their first couple of years, you are pro trading them because they're not accomplishing what you would hope that they would?
I'm not saying pro trade them, but I'm saying let the hype die down a little bit. I mean, are these guys even adding 10 wins to a season? Are they even adding 5 wins to a season? I mean, DeMarcus Cousins, did he ever get any more wins in Sacramento? It's like these guys are supposed to be so good. It's a lot of guys
but
come in.
But they are good. They're young.
They're
DeMarcus Cousins, Cousins is different because Cousins is, and thanks to the call, Damien, Cousins is a little bit off the wall, and he's a selfish player. But you look at his numbers, they're unbelievable. Without Cousins, that team was nothing. Do I think that – does Kristaps Porzingis make the Knicks better? Of course he makes them better. Does Karl Anthony Towns make Minnesota better? Of course he makes them better. These are big-time players. So, yeah, they're not leading teams to championships in year one. What did LeBron do in year one? Yeah, LeBron put up great numbers, but LeBron wasn't great immediately. How about Kobe Bryant? What did he do in year one? He didn't play. So, yeah, for every Akeem Olajuwon, I can find you 10 guys that are irrelevant. Look, if you want to sit here and tell me the Anthony Bennett's of the world, that stinks, that's fine. But to come down on Towns, to come down on Porzingis, to come down on guys that are on the verge of, if not superstardom, being some of the better players in the NBA, I think you're crazy with that. 866-729-3776. What frustrates me about the Knicks is this. Phil is now gone. People are celebrating. There's this belief that all of a sudden it's nirvana, and with a snap of a finger, this team is heading in the right direction, and I think you're crazy. I think that there is so much dysfunction and so many question marks. And now this article that Melo is telling KP that he's angry at him and don't fall for the triangle and don't get involved, it kind of drives you insane. But you know what? That's the New York Knicks. And it almost wouldn't make sense if it were any other way. 17 years, one playoff round victory. What direction do they go in? Calipari allegedly says, I'm interested. The Knicks say no. Why? Why wouldn't you reach out to everybody? Cal, to me, would be the perfect hire. Why? Because when DeMarcus Cousins, because when Anthony Davis, because when Karl Anthony Towns, because when John Wall, because when Devin Booker, because when all the players, and he knows every single one of them, when they are free agents, you know who's going to get a sit down with them? Not Phil Jackson. John Calipari. Watch that 30 for 30 again. Watch him give his speech and watch the 70 guys that he helped get to the NBA surround him and cheer for him and applaud him. Watch it.
Okay, keep your eyes closed.
Okay.
I want to show you my first ever painting.
All right.
Okay. Open your eyes.
Oh, that's a lot of colors and shapes.
So be honest. What do you think?
Well, I like how if you switch to Geico, you could save hundreds of dollars on car insurance.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Here, why don't I hold your paintbrush while you call them?
Geico, because saving 15% or more on car insurance is always a great answer.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it!
Now, I don't know if you saw it. You can go online and search for it. There's, video shot of McGregor and Mayweather, training. And it's a split screen. So you see McGregor on one side and Mayweather on the other. And Mayweather looks like he's a seasoned, veteran, grizzled boxer. And Conor McGregor looks like he's a MMA guy who's really not a boxer. Like, Mayweather is attacking the bag at a rate where you can barely see his hands move. And McGregor is training like we would. Like if you were taken to a gym and a smart trainer said, here's what I want you to do. Like, I imagine that you wouldn't look a lot different than McGregor. And again, this does nothing to sell me on not watching the fight. I the only reason I will watch this fight is because it'll be a night for me to get together with some friends and watch it. I have no interest in this thing. I vowed after Mayweather destroyed Pacquiao, I am never falling for it again. But I actually think that this could be exciting because I think Mayweather might destroy McGregor. Like, I think Mayweather may pummel him unless he wants to just toy with him. Couldn't you see that? Couldn't you see Mayweather just hitting him enough to hurt him, to keep him at bay, and to keep the fight going for 6, 7, 8, 9 rounds before he finally puts him out? Like, almost like an exhibition match. He's going to toy with him. He's going to destroy him. I'm telling you. If you are of the mindset that McGregor is going to win, change your mindset, because that, I promise you, that's not going to happen. All right, 866-ESPN, 866-729-3776. What other news do we have? We do have other news. SportsCenter just tweeted out that Andre Iguodala, when the clock strikes midnight, will not be meeting with Golden State. So here's the thing for me. I don't know if you feel like this. Andre Iguodala is a perfect fit for the Warriors. He plays defense. He runs the floor. He can rebound. He can play small. He can defend. He can shoot just enough to keep teams honest. Perfect fit. If I have money under the cap and Andre Iguodala comes calling and says, look, I want 3 years at $60 million. I think I am worthy of $20 million a year. And you give it to him, you're crazy. Now, I think that he could have success on a Cleveland because I think that they're set and he just adds to them. I think he could have success on a San Antonio who has Leonard and a really, really stellar team around him with, I don't need to run through the whole team, but you understand what I'm saying. But if you're a team that's on the come, if you're a team that's on the verge of becoming relevant, I wouldn't want Iguodala. I'm not spending money on Andre Iguodala like I would have to spend on elite players in this league. He to me is a luxury, not a necessity. The most value a guy like Iguodala has is to a team like Golden State because he can just focus on what he's good at. You don't need him to score 20 points a game. If he does, that's a bonus. That's great, but that's not necessary at all. Howard and Yonkers. Howard, you're on ESPN Radio.
Happy to be here. Thanks for taking my call.
You got it.
Passionate. I'm a Steel fan like yourself. I'm just trying to figure out, get a grip on why isn't Mark Jackson being considered for this general manager's position? He has a track record with Golden State, and he's brought prominence to New York back in the day when Patrick Ewing was struggling. I remember the excitement and the appeal and the lure that we got when we got Mark Jackson.
How do you know that Mark Jackson? I mean, we've known about Phil being gone for 48 hours. How do you know that Mark Jackson won't be a candidate for something?
I'm not hearing anything. I don't hear any buzz about it like I've heard a buzz about D'Antoni before he got here. We've taken so many risks.
Howard, you're premature. Look, I don't know that you're going to hear about Mark Jackson at all, but I don't know that you're not. So for you to say I'm disappointed, who have you heard about? You heard about Calipari, and who knows if that's true. You've heard about David Griffin. You've heard about Masai Ujiri, and now they've said no thank you to that already. So it's not like you've heard about 40 guys. You've heard about 2 or 3.
Yeah, but I'm still not hearing Mark, and Mark has been in the mix of everything for the past probably 4 years.
Well, let's wait and see. I mean, look, before you sit here, and thanks for the call, Howard, and freak out about Mark Jackson's desire to come here, let's see what the plan that may be in place is, and let's see if they do reach out and have some kind of a meeting with Mark Jackson. Look, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to take it in. I'm going to wait. And when there's time to explode because the Knicks are acting Knick-like, I will do that. But right now, we're not in that situation right now. Have a great weekend. Enjoy it. Happy 4th, everybody. Rothenberg will be back Monday, ESPN Radio.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on Sirius XM Channel 80 and the ESPN app.